My name is Jeremy Walton, and here's 3 filmmaking tips I use that'll save you time. Let's go! Back home and feeling good, sunshine and palm trees, not much to complain about. I finally thawed out, but in a couple weeks I'm heading back to the cold. Well, let me enjoy this weather for a little bit and shoot a video. I want to start off by talking about traveling. If you travel a lot for work like I do, you should check out my series, Filmmaking Travel Tips, and see a bunch of tips and tricks I use to make your life much easier and more efficient, especially at the airport, which for a lot of people can be a nightmare. I used to hate it, but now it's a breeze, most of the time. I apply the same efficiency when filming as well. And the more you do it, the more you'll be able to focus in on what works for you. In this video, I want to cover 3 tricks I use when filming if I'm strapped for time and I want to make good use of that time. Which means I'm getting out of the house and I'll see you on the road. Making good use of your time means whatever city I'm in. Obviously right now it's LA. I love to explore, grab a few shots, maybe some client work, maybe some B-roll. Check out that video because it will definitely help you out with some tips that will go along with this video. It's like I somehow planned it. I'm sure you've seen clips of people or objects wiping frame or being used as a transition. Done right, this can be a really interesting camera move instead of a hard cut. Which brings me to my first tip, and that's going to be reverse is your friend. No! Why do people always park next to me? Go park somewhere else. Let me just double check the weather. Sunny. Perfect. Let's head outside. It's a hot one. Hey, get out of my frame. Now in a bit, you'll see what this tip means, but it can be tricky, so I want to cover a few things to look out for and what you can do to make this worth doing. By the way, I will be shooting at 120 frames per second. Focus will be the first issue I want to address. It's always an issue because it's so important. And depending on your camera, that can vary. I shoot everything in manual focus. Now that might sound odd, but I do explain why and how I accomplish it in my video, Filmmakers Using Autofocus, Yes or No. So if you're interested, have a look and give it a try. Now since we're moving from behind a wall to a subject, no matter what you use, focus and framing may take a handful of tries to nail because the move is blind. And if you mess up, you can't just move over an inch. That just doesn't look good. This is what you can do. Start on your subject first. Then when you're focused, you have your framing, then make your move to the wall. So we've flipped it. Your ending is now your beginning when shooting. That way you don't have to blindly nail your framing and you don't have to be worried about your focus. This is where reverse comes into play, so we're gonna hop into Premiere Pro. Once you get your footage into Premiere, right-click, select speed duration, and check reverse speed. You basically have the same clip you would have shot, but saved a whole lot of time. Now after adding a speed ramp, let's watch the ending, and compared to earlier, you can see how we land perfectly in frame and in focus. That's working efficiently. Having said that, you have to keep a couple things in mind. If you have people or cars in the frame, obviously selecting reverse will make everything run backwards. That may or may not be something you want. This has worked countless times for me, and even when a scene is working, sometimes I throw it in reverse just to see what happens. Don't be afraid to try things out. Even when I'm not shooting for a transition, if I get a shot at the end, I'll swipe past something or do a whip because you never know. Maybe I'll use the clip straight up, whip into another clip, or throw it in reverse. It's about having options when you don't have a lot of time. So why not add this to your shooting style and editing options? Now we can move on to my number 2 trick, which is forget about audio. Yeah, I said it. I mean, really, how important is the audio in a video when recording? Actually, it's really important, so make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. I did do an entire video titled Getting Good Audio Isn't Enough, which I recommend watching because it'll dive deeper into how I handle audio and it might surprise you. There's a little crossover here. I just want to elaborate a bit more. If I'm doing a vlog, my audio is set up for vlogging. I don't want to be constantly adjusting it for other situations. What I'm talking about is more important than the sounds around me. If I'm in LA or in any major city, it never fails that I get security telling me to stop filming. So I have to be discreet, which means I definitely don't have a mic attached. The majority of the time, I don't waste my time with the audio. When I sit down to edit a sequence, for example, taking place in a city, I delete all the audio and replace it with a track of city sounds, which will definitely sound better than the run and gun audio you'll get in camera. Don't even fuss with it, just delete it. Then add in all your transitions, sound effects, and music. Now, you might be saying that takes time. It does. So what I do, especially for music, is multitask. What I like to use is Artlist, and I'll put a link in the description to their site. It's very streamlined and super easy to use. That goes for their pricing and the Artlist license as well. Simple is always better. I've used them for a few years now and have really enjoyed my experience. One way to save time is when I'm at the gym or driving in my car, at a stoplight of course, I scroll through their music and star anything I think I can use. You'll even get emails from Artlist with top picks for the month. I usually end up saving 2 or 3 songs from that list. Picking music was one of the most time-consuming and tedious tasks that literally drove me crazy. The first time I was working on a project and already had a folder of songs I knew I'd like, there was no going back. So put on those headphones, drown out any unwanted sounds, and start saving time. Yeah, not a bad view. Number 3 on my list is going to be unique perspective. Whenever I'm watching something, it's someone's perspective that appeals to me. If it's a filmmaker, maybe it's their editing style, their grade, their camera movement. It's the way someone tells a story that can have a unique perspective. Granted, if you're filming in the city, a lot has been covered, so it's definitely more difficult. And then you throw in a limited time frame, you get a lot of people doing the same thing. That's why if I have the time, I'm always strapping my camera to anything that moves. But what can you do under these circumstances? The first thing I try to avoid is telling a story using a 50mm lens, which is really close to what the human eye sees, and filming at eye level. Someone walking around can do that. This is when you need to get creative. I automatically think lower or higher. So if I'm walking down the street at eye level, things look pretty calm and ordinary. Or we can switch things up. Let's go low and look how much changes. No one walks around that low to the ground passing by people's feet. So for me, that's a unique perspective. You don't have to go crazy. A small change can go a long way. If we literally go high, you can turn ordinary walking into something a lot more interesting. It's not like it's never been done before, it's just a lot better than something we see all the time. So if you have a shot in mind, consider putting a unique perspective on it that gives it that extra little something. Trust me, in the end, it'll pay off. There you have it, 3 filmmaking tips that'll save you time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button because there's definitely more in the way. Subscribe so you don't miss out. But until then, comment below and let me know what you do when you're strapped for time. And as for this episode, it's a wrap.